Hey, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you may be streaming from, and welcome to another edition of Becoming Awesome, where Amazon insiders introduce you to the humans of AWS. I'm Ray Thomas, your co-host, with lovely and my incredible partner, Jenna Lass. How are you, Jenna?
I'm incredibly impressed with your new technical skills to be able to create that fantastic countdown. Nice job.
I appreciate that. I wish I was still looked younger like that. And I don't have that chiseled of a face, but Gen AI is not perfect. But I tried. But yeah, happy you enjoyed it. I think the music and gives like another positive layer to it.
Good
I
energy.
think
Sure.
especially for 2024 with
The
we have a
crazy
lot
thing
of
is we talk about humans and then we have these like AI images of ourselves.
it's so
So,
true.
we're
It's so true. It's so true.
contradictory.
So Jenna, why don't you introduce our guest for
Sure.
today?
Yeah, so I have we're talking to one of my hiring managers. I really have been enjoying working with Jim Kim. I find him to be really fair and very engaged. So I'm very thankful that he's decided to join our show today. I think we'll do some chit-chatting about business development and go-to-market solutioning in the EdTech space, as well as the innovations of Gen AI that's happening there. And I hope a lot of getting to know Jim personally. And there you are, Jim. So welcome to
Thank you.
Becoming Awesome. I can say that I think you've already became awesome, but you can help others understand how that becoming became. But first and foremost, you interestingly reposted the advertisement sharing some quirky insights about you personally playing Wii and the Super Brothers. So inquiring minds want to hear a little bit more about that before we get to business.
Yeah. But Ray and Jenna, thanks for having me. I feel like right as it started, like the sun started coming through the window. And anyway, I'm going to try and adjust so that there's minimal glare. But as I was thinking about Twitch, I was like, I wonder what I think about live streaming where I might have some skills that might be interesting, and came up short. But the closest I could come to was good old Super Mario Brothers Wii. Not to overshare, but first person games do make me a little nauseous. So I had to go with the horizontal scroller. And the Wii has a special place in my heart. When my now wife and I were dating, the Wii played a prominent role in our bonding. I was in business school at the time as well, and many hours lost to the Wii. So it does hold a special place in my heart as well. So hence why I threw it out there as a place to start.
That's so romantic to share just a few days before Valentine's Day. So we'll have to snip that and share that with you.
Yeah, Wii sales are going to go through the roof, and I
wonder what they cost now, since it's like older tech, and you've seen. I'm looking at like VCRs and the price shooting up because of the nostalgia effect. So I wonder what Wii's go for these days. But I do remember when it first came out, fantastic. We were sweating while we were playing and accidentally launching the remote towards our TVs. So yeah, it was it's a lot of fun.
That was
do you
good.
play any other games or anything at this time?
Funny enough, and maybe this is why I was top of mind. So over the holidays, we were watching the Super Mario Brothers movie as a family, and it brought back all kinds of. It was a fun movie, and it brought back all kinds. So we actually broke out the Wii from storage, which I had held on to all these years. And so it's hooked back up, and we're playing Wii tennis, and we broke out Mario and Mario Kart, and it still holds its weight.
That's fantastic. That's fantastic. I recently got an Atari. I went to Costco during Christmas, and they ended up having like newer versions of the Atari, and they have all the games preloaded now, right? But then similar controllers and impossible games to play. But anyways,
now you're talking my language and time frame. I played Atari actually, Frogger, Boom, and actually Odyssey was a game machine.
Yeah.
Other than that, it was Simon.
So Jim, I know you and Jenna work together closely. For myself and others that don't know of you, tell us a little bit about, what you're currently doing here, and even like your progression to coming to AWS.
Yeah, absolutely. Maybe I'll just go in chronological order because all the pieces somehow came together serendipitously. So I started my career in higher education. So I was a freshman dean at Bowdoin College, and then went out to Stanford University out in California, helping new students get acclimated to college life. And really great role. Like, I feel like freshman year of college is an exciting time of life. Being on a college campus, there's just so much going on, and to have the opportunity to help students really and find their way, find their belonging on campus, it was fantastic. I ended up switching gears and going to business school, and there was an analytical kind of more strategy side of my brain. I was like, I want to work this out a little bit more. I want to really build up these skills, and business school felt like a way to do it. And coming out of there, I switched over to the corporate world and worked in loyalty marketing and partnerships, mixing personal and professional. Got married to previously mentioned now wife, and we ended up moving to DC. And there I just happened to stumble upon the EdTech scene, and I was like, oh my goodness, like education and business together. And it had just eluded me until then, and I dove in head first. I spent about a decade with two EdTechs on the sales and customer success side, so really thinking about the growth and the customer impact side of things, and learned so much. Some colleagues from that first EdTech that I worked with were here at AWS and said, you know what, there's a lot of things that we loved about being in that startup environment that ring true here at AWS, and you should check it out. And so I did. And fast forward, I've been here 3 years now. And to the part of the question of what do I do? I lead a team that we call Product Acceleration. We are working with EdTech and GovTech software companies. So these are software companies built on AWS that are serving primarily education, so K-12, higher education, lifelong learning, and state and local governments. And what we're doing is we're helping these software companies grow. And in particular, we're helping them grow through product innovation. So how can we help them develop products more quickly that solve the challenges of their customers? In terms of the team, we're made up of former product managers, app developers, subject matter experts, and we work with these customers all across the product development lifecycle, from the companies that want to innovate and have a lot of ideas, but maybe aren't getting traction and just need some help prioritizing. We can bring in some Amazonian mechanisms. Folks have probably heard of working backwards. Like we can help prioritize with some of the tools and approaches that have worked here at Amazon. Turn that into product requirements, turn that into recommended architecture, help guide the build, and ultimately help these solutions get to market so that they can have that positive impact on the education and public sector.
You said subject matter experts on your team. Can you elaborate what that means? What you mean by experts?
Yeah, absolutely. I'll focus on two areas where, and it's really about thinking about what are those strategies that we're seeing across our customers that if we brought in expertise could help them move faster. And one example is around global expansion, for example. So crossing borders has both business implications and technical implications, things like data residency, for example, and privacy requirements. So global expansion is one area where we can bring in that expertise and provide some knowledge and help them learn more quickly about some of the markets that they're trying to enter into. The other generative AI, folks may have heard of, but artificial intelligence, machine learning, and generative AI all lump all together is another area. And on the generative side in particular, it is a fast-moving, fast-developing area in particular over the past year or so, where our subject matter experts help our customers understand, like, what is this technology and how could it apply to our product set, and what are the ways that we can test and how should we prioritize, really being in there at the same table with our customers, with their revenue, with their product, with their technical leadership, to help think through the implications of specific topics like Gen AI and AI ML.
Mm-hmm. So given that you came from education and moved into EdTech, and here you are now innovating on behalf of the industry, what are you most, and having a passion for education, you went to business school, so you are, what are you personally hoping to see in terms of transformation in the industry?
Yeah.
And I personally, I have a freshman in college and a sophomore in college, so I appreciate all that work that you've done for these new students, and so I'm also asking both personally and professionally.
Yeah, asking for a friend.
Yeah. Yes, thank you.
Yeah, well, we could talk about this for hours, but let me just I'll pick one slice in particular for me, that I think is, like, it's a broad theme, but there's so much underneath it to unpack. Personalized learning, I think, is something that we have talked about for decades, right? And the number of variables or dimensions that learning can and needs to be personalized is infinite. And we can think about language, and we can think about learning style, and we can think about cultural background. There's just so much there. And to put that onus on, in K-12, for example, to put that on a teacher, or to put that on my former self as an assistant dean, that's a lot. And the potential for technology to help, and with Gen AI, what it's opened up is the power and the potential to personalize in so many different dimensions at a scale that I think prior would have been difficult to achieve. Like, there's something here that I think is really exciting and really special about really getting down to the individual learner and student-centered learning, that I think this next wave of innovation and a lot of the areas that my team is focusing on is going to help deliver.
I was going to ask, what was top of mind for the educational institutions a few years ago, and how did that shift now? Like, what are they trying to solve now that's really priority?
Yeah, it's, Ray, I'm not sure it's changed all that much, to be honest. There are intractable challenges that have been around for a while. I think the COVID pandemic may have exacerbated some, but we think about things like achievement gap, mental health, enrollment declines. Like, these aren't new, unfortunately, but there's a lot of, I think, a lot of visibility, a lot of commitment, and just, like, with that, I think a greater understanding of the need for all of us to work together to move quickly to address some of these core challenges. So it doesn't feel new, but I think, like I said, I think we're seeing some tools now and some opportunities to maybe make a big dent and continue to achieve what I think we all want education to be.
Yeah, especially given, everyone's goals and aspirations. And then honestly, you look at the cost that's been skyrocketing, right? I mean, I'm in my mid-40s. I remember what school cost 25 years ago versus what it is today. And I have a almost 14-year-old daughter, I'm thinking about, oh my God, that the cost coming, it's scary. So at the same time, you want to make sure that that investment is something that also delivers, right? Obviously, it's up to the student, but at the same time, the institution itself has all the tools necessary to help them, get the education that they deserve and need and paid for, right? Invested in. So
yeah, what's so nice is that like this is super innovative in terms of technology, the work you're doing, but also it's so mission driven. It's such a nice balance of doing for the people, right? And being part of the technology evolution. So you're recruiting, you have a role on your team. Can you tell us about a little bit about the role you have open and the ideal candidate?
Yeah, sure can. So fortuitous that we talked a little bit about the AI/ML space already, and the role on my team is for a senior AI/ML advisor to focus on work with EdTechs. And in terms of the role and what this looks like, I mean, not surprising, it is working with a very innovative set of EdTechs that are built on AWS, and we are fortunate that we have a very, very, very strong share of cloud-based EdTechs that are built on AWS. So we have an excellent customer base to work with and collaborate with to drive this change at scale. In terms of what this role can help provide, it is to really be at the forefront of AI/ML and Gen AI and how it can apply to education, both in terms of helping our ed techs understand the technology to craft the use cases and the products and the features that don't exist today, and to its core to the AWS and responsible AI to craft them in ways that educators can and will actually use and incorporate into their classrooms, into their educational settings. In terms of the skill set or some of the areas that I think are going to really set this person up for success, I will say that one, not surprisingly, Gen AI and AI/ML expertise first and foremost. And what I've been telling folks is this is not the ramp up position of being interested in the space and wanting to learn more. There are other roles where I think that would be a better fit. This is one where someone has been solid in that and really wants to make a difference in terms of how Gen AI is deployed and used and moves ed tech forward. The second piece with that is an understanding of the education market. There are nuances and an understanding of how education works that I think is useful insights to help guide conversations in a productive way. And then the third piece I'd say is knowledge and familiarity of the product development process. And there's a lot of very interesting conversations we could have big picture around the impact of AI/ML in education, but ultimately we're here and our ed techs are here to actually do stuff. We want to identify what are the priorities, what's going to help educators most, what is going to help we're a business, what's going to help us all grow in the right way. And ultimately, let's move. We call it bias for action. Like let's move and actually do things rather than talking to ourselves in a circle, and understanding how product gets developed and shipped, I think is that third component of that. So that's the 1, 2, and 3 in terms of delivering on being successful in the role.
Yeah. So thank you for being so prescriptive about that. Really well said. So I'll just decompose this a moment. So the product piece, you are a product manager or you're not, right? The education space, there's enough out there, I think, that people can read up and learn about the work we're doing through some use cases. I think the hardest part, in my interpretation of what you shared, and if I'm wrong, redirect me. But I think the hardest part is proving out the subject matter expertise in the AI ML space. So what does am I right about that, or is my interpretation off before I ask my question?
Yeah, maybe I think where your question is, where I think your question is heading is what are some of the ways to demonstrate?
Yes. How can they prove to you they have that SME layer?
Yeah. Mm-hmm. I'd say there's I'll give a good, better, best. Great. And being bar raising AWS, we like
best.
we like best. But I'd say the good is a working knowledge of AI ML, like an understanding of some of the AWS services that we offer, some of the basic use cases where we've seen it, and this could be both generative AI and I'll call it good old fashioned AI ML, things like personalization, right? So, or AWS personalized. So that's piece one. Piece two is starting to get into some of the best practices. So how can you actually apply said technology? So for generative AI, knowing the difference between RAG and fine tuning and LLM, a large language model, and the pros and cons of each approach. And then the best, I would say, is hands-on experience. So folks that have worked with Gen AI, that have played around in Bedrock, that have maybe, if they are at a software company today, have actually incorporated Gen AI and tools like Bedrock into their own product roadmap and have that hands-on experience. Like that, I would say is super strong. So just to give three layers to it, that's how I would give some more concrete guidance, Jenna, on showing and also gaining the expertise in this rapidly growing space.
That's awesome. That's really helpful to help calibrate the viewers, the market, and myself really as your recruiter.
So my question is for you, and we only have a few minutes left, so I want to try to drive this home. Why should someone that's a top performer in those organizations that's really happy where they are, why should they seriously consider this opportunity? Like sometimes I always try to compare, sometimes trying to, sell a Lamborghini to someone that already has a Ferrari, right? But there's something else. What's that other key piece that's missing?
Yeah. I'm going to repeat a little bit, Ray, what I mentioned before, but I think it's worth coming back to. And one, the world's leading EdTechs are built on AWS. And that's the customer base that we get to work with. And you don't find that elsewhere. That is a fortunate opportunity that we have that has come from a lot of hard work and a lot of great services that have set up our team, the product acceleration team, to have really great set of customers to partner with on this product development journey. The second piece I'll say is I respect and embrace AWS's approach to generative AI, and there's a lot to figure out and a lot to do and a lot of room to innovate in the right way. And the strong stance that AWS has taken, including developing Gen AI adoption guidelines for K-12 with CoSIN, one of the leading K-12 industry orgs. We're thinking about this in a very responsible way. And I think for folks that also embrace that and see the importance of that, in particular for education, you're going to find yourself in a place where that's just core to the DNA. So I'd say those are the two pieces that I really want to raise up. If I could be biased, it's also a great team. we have a very creative, collaborative, talented, fast-moving team, and so you could say this across AWS, but if I could speak about our core product acceleration team, like, really, really great team to be a part of.
Excellent. Thank you for sharing that. I think it's sometimes repeating it a second time and then boiling it down to like the real top 2 or 3 key points is what people really connect with. They get to see the bigger picture. They really understand what the full opportunity looks like. It's great to be someone that's a leader in one organization building a specific product, but then the opportunity that we've seen here with AWS in general has been to take that and then scale it across a lot of different organizations. Take what you've learned and being able to be that SME for a lot of great customers and scale it out. And then I always tell other candidates, the world's your oyster once you get here. The learning is insane. The amount of resources is just more than enough anyone can handle in a lifetime, to be honest, and almost impossible to become an expert in all services. You just can't because there's so many. But it's up to you to be like a kid in the candy store and pick what you really want. So I think that's the real opportunity for that you just don't see in a lot of other places. So
yeah,
you sold in your most authentic way without trying to sell. So it's very believable, and I think there's a lucky person out there for this.
Yeah. So we're about to wrap up. We're about to close the show, but Jim, I want to thank you for joining. In the chat, for anyone that's here or anyone watching the video on demand later on, we put the links to the job description itself for you to take a deeper dive into it, and feel free to apply and reach out to Jim as well as Jenna on LinkedIn if you have more questions and interest in the role. We also would love to hear from you about this episode, so we put a survey link as well as our email address to reach out with any comments or feedback. But really appreciate it. Thank you all. Thank you again, Jim. Thank you again, Jenna, for bringing an incredible guest, and we'll see you all next week. All right. Take care, everyone.
Cheers.
Bye.